All right. This is storytelling, I guess. If you can imagine, this is what my room looks like. There's a table, short green little table, coming to the middle of the room. And my room is almost like a little rectangle, almost New York apartment kind of feel. And I have a little plant on top of this little cabinet where my books are. And my bed actually is very small. This used to be my little brother's room. And I used to have a bigger room, but I wanted to go a little bit more of a minimalistic style. But regardless, it's a very, very chill room, I gotta say. And yeah, I'm just gonna start with the fact that I did think about doing this for a while. I thought about this a while ago, actually. And it would come to me once in a while when I thought about like maybe friends I could get on podcasts. I thought it would be cool because like it's like young kids is like talking about stuff, maybe books and like I don't know. Just thought about it once in a while. But basically, I realized that for the longest time I didn't want to specify it. And this clicked for me when Jordan Peterson in his video said, you don't want to specify your goals because it also specifies your failures. Something like that. I'm paraphrasing, but yeah, just kind of thought about that. Let it linger around your mind. Anyways, my name is TenzinLongrig, and some of you might know that I kept changing my new YouTube channel from Tenzin Gyal, TenzinLongrig, Gyal, and now it's like only Gyal. The reason behind that is my parents, they both have the same last name, Gyal. And my little brother and I, we both have the first name, Tenzin. And that we didn't get our names from our parents. We got it from a temple in Dharamsala, where we were born actually. And after being born in Dharamsala, eventually we moved to a place called Bidi. But before I even get to that, Dharamsala, it was just like, that's a place where I remember being in like minivans. Like that's what the taxi was like. Those old, like, if you can think about those hipster minivans, those that look sort of like a like a little spaceship, I guess. That's what that was. And what I remember most about India was basically the freedom of seeing landscapes, the nature, the farmland, the village, the countryside, and not knowing how precious and beautiful that was. It was just kind of crazy to me to think about it now because every day I'm in this room most of the time. And I used to tell myself I was like extroverted, you know? But now that I think about it, I don't think I am. I think I'm very introverted. Maybe a little bit of both. But I realize when I need to talk to a big group of people or a group of people, I have to force myself. But it's a good force because I know how to manage it and I know how to control myself. Does that make sense? But afterwards, I do feel a little bit drained. Or even in the process. So, growing up from there, grew up as a kid, done a lot of stuff here and there, played a lot of Tekken, the old style with the little joystick and the 4 buttons. Yo, I was a killer. Nobody can beat me in Tekken, especially when I'm playing with Paul. Yo, I know I got so into it. But growing up from India, been a kid, toyed around, made mistakes. Eventually, I got to a point where I moved to Bidi. And in Bidi, that's where I met a lot of my friends, who later on is a big rapping on story. But growing up there, it was just crazy because I got to experience true friendship, school life, and almost a privileged life in a place where poverty is insane. Especially if you just walked outside my parents' restaurant during the time, just along in the streets, there's just trash everywhere. I mean, compared to America, that's like crazy. Trash literally everywhere. Especially one point I saw this, like, I don't know what he was. I guess he was like a spiritual guy. He had like little marks on his head, mala beads around him, the Buddhist like clothes, long hair, little bit of beard. But in his left hand, I remember in his left hand he had a little bag, a white clear bag with like some white stuff in it. He was just puffing away, and I think about it, I think that was cocaine, but who knows. And grew up just being a crazy kid. I was reckless. When my parents told me not to, I would always do something crazy. I used to travel far out into the countryside, meet other people that I probably shouldn't have. Swim in like lakes and ponds, and like, well, I wouldn't call it lakes and ponds because they're pretty small. It's like rivers. But I would swim in there with my friends, and we would go far away. And I was only like, 8 or 9? Probably around 8. And then there was this one point where I probably shouldn't even be telling you. There was this one point where at the register when my mom held down a restaurant. And the thing about the restaurant is we had a really humble beginning. My dad used to own like a very small little shopping cart size. That's an exaggeration, but very small little hub where he would sell a lot of like junk food, snacks, and it's kind of like a snack bar. And it was portable, he could move it around, but that's what he would, use to get money. And then eventually, in Biddy, got a little more successful, held down a little restaurant, which was doing fairly well. If I can sidetrack a little bit, that's where I burned my right arm. Maybe in the pictures or like videos, you might see something on my right bicep. That's actually when I was a little kid, I pulled over something really hot. I think it was like hot tea. I'm not sure actually. I think it was hot tea. Or no, it was hot water that you can make tea from. And it was like in a little container with like a cork on top. Well, I guess it was open because I fucking burned my arm. And from there, eventually, going back to what I was talking about, life. I was just a crazy kid. And at my register, where my mom always took the money, I would sneak in there and I would just toy around, and I would get my tiny little fucking ratty little hands and squeeze it in there and then pull out some money. No, I didn't intend to pull out a 50 or 100. But that was a first sign that I was a pretty mischievous kid. Didn't really like to follow rules. Didn't really want to be controlled. I was very disagreeable. And I noticed that about myself. Very disagreeable. Very stubborn too. So, pulled out a little bit of cash. Sometimes even more. And I would go to these little game stations and I would play games. And it was the best time because in there, when you play games, it's actually almost a competition to see who's the best. So I would go there and spend a lot of money, and I would just, a lot of money, meaning like $5 would get you like 5 little tokens that you can put in and you can play a lot. And there's a little FIFA, old FIFA little stations, but didn't interest me. Always into Tekken. And growing up from there, I just realized that a lot of time flew by. And I guess it was just me being arrogant as a kid. But when I first realized that, oh shit, I'm moving away from India to this place called America. This great place called America. It was just kind of insane to me. I was like, what? Is this really happening? Because if you don't know, if you're an immigrant and you look at America, it's a very different thing from looking at it from an outside perspective than being in it. And now being in it and being outside of it, I can sort of understand myself a little more in a way that my perspective towards the world is different than most. And I realize that maybe I'm just, I don't know, a little more pessimistic. But yeah, I just grew up and I just realized that I just kind of was different. Maybe I just wanted to feel special. So, this is the last memory I had of leaving India, and it's the worst fucking memory. So, we realize we're going, pack up all my clothes. Our restaurant is a rented little space in a big building. And honestly, that was amazing. My fucking parents worked so damn hard, I'm telling you. Hours and hours and hours on their back. Just making ends meet, saving up. If you know anything about Asians, we fucking save up, son. So, we realized that, I realized that we're moving. And when I realized that, shit, it's time to go. We packed up, got in the same little white van that you could taxi out. And as I was leaving, I can't get this memory out of my fucking head. It's insane. As we're leaving, drifting off, I can see the little school, because Biri was a little village where almost everybody knew each other. And my friend, Tenzin, I see him like waving, standing on a little rock, smiling, because he knew that I was leaving. I knew I was leaving, but for some reason, I didn't think it was a big deal. I thought I would like come back, or I just didn't really grasp the idea that we were leaving. I that just didn't even go through my head. I was just like, oh, I'm just getting in the car, just going. So I didn't get to say goodbye. I didn't get to say like anything. Didn't get to get his contact number, or dude, we were fucking like 8 or 9 at this point. So didn't know anything. So I drift off. We stay at a hotel in Delhi, New Delhi. And being there, it was weird. It was like, okay, another place. And I learned from there never to be like too attached to one place, because we were just moving. And that sounds kind of dramatic, but it wasn't, And there, I finally, it's probably around like 8 or 9, I discovered yo-yo. And that was like the best thing ever when I was like, because I would watch these yo-yos on like videos of people like doing like crazy tricks. And this is where I was like, yo, I want to learn this, And then once you learn one trick and you progress, and then, it's a good feeling, it's a good cycle to happen. Anyways, I grow up older and older. But we only stayed like a few months in New Delhi. Probably a few weeks. But through that time, I'm slowly understanding, like, shit, this is serious, this like, and the funny thing is, I don't remember thinking too much about where we moved from. And now that I'm here at age 18, I'm thinking about it now. Like where I came from and everything that is like I've experienced, and it's insane. It's insane because probably like a month ago, I would say, the same friend, I got in contact with him. But before I get there, let me continue. I moved to America. We get on the plane, and I remember getting on the plane. I remember seeing like European kid like with like fucking gliding across the airport. I'm like, yo, what the fuck is this guy doing? And I realized this motherfucker got Heelys on. This dude is drifting. He's flying. He's Jesus in my eyes. So I see that. I'm like, yo, this is different. And then I think we got off at Austria at one point. That's what my mom told me. We got off at Austria. We had to do a layover or like some switch. And then we finally got onto a plane, and then we got dropped off in I think it's called Delta, or I forgot the name. Delta? I can't remember the name. But we got off. I think it was somewhere in Virginia or DC area. I just forgot the airport name. Yep. Well, there you go. Forgot. I don't think I even thought about that. But yeah, I got off at that airport. And all I remember was holding on to my little brother with my left hand and pushing a cart and trying to help my mom. Because by this point, my dad already moved to America way before us. So keep in mind, I haven't seen my dad for months. And while I'm in India, this is my memory. I kept asking for a Game Boy because everybody had one. I don't know how they got it. I don't remember. I think one of my friends, he got like his friend, like his dad had a friend who's like helped him get it and like sent it to him. Basically, if you had a Game Boy, you had the newest iPhone. That's what it was like. It's like, yo, this guy thing, So I wanted one. I kept on asking for one, and I never got one. So pretty fucking upset. And keep in mind, I was spoiled. I was a spoiled little bitch. What I mean by spoiled is people in India, where I was living especially, it's almost like an extreme. There's some people who had money, good business. It was a little village, and there were some people that were poor. And I was one of those fortunate kids who had hardworking parents. And I wasn't struggling. And we weren't amazingly rich, but we weren't struggling. So, now we're at the airport. See my dad. Hug him. And I see my cousins. Well, I think I see my aunt. I didn't see my aunt. I saw my uncle. The memory is kind of fading as I speak because I was only 9 years old. I mean, shit, we got into the little minivan. And as we're drifting off, I remember seeing the lights. The flickering lights of the big airport. I'm like, whoa. In India, the highest story building you could see was probably like 4 or 5. Now I'm looking at this huge industrial building. Amazingly, like, all the glass. I'm looking around. I'm imagining the people. I'm like, wow. And I remember seeing a Punjabi. He had a little turban on. I remember that. I can't forget that. And getting into the car, I remember the ride being very mysterious. Good mysterious. Because I remember seeing the little sparkles in the buildings as we drove by. But mostly we came here during the nighttime, so it was very dark, and I just saw the lights. And in the car, there's no lights, so we start talking, and it's like, it's amazing to not see your family for a long ass fucking time, and years actually, and to finally reconnect. So the journey home, or actually to their house, was amazing. And I just remember looking out the window. I couldn't look at anybody's face. I was like, yo, this is fucking crazy. Look at the place we're in. Because I used to think America was New York. I used to think people who lived in America used to live in a room that was tiny as shit with like ceilings almost touching your head. That's what I used to think. 100%. Facts. Not even joking. That's what I used to thought. That's what I used to think. So, as I get there, I remember being welcomed into their house with my cousin. He was probably 16. And he had like curly long hair down to his shoulders. Wavy, voluminous. White t-shirt, white sweats. And I think he had like some sandals. Don't ask me why I remember all that. Sometimes I have good memories, sometimes I don't. I remembered that. And I remember the door being open. Remember the light creeping out of the door. And as we got there and pulled up into the driveway, I remember Bolt. The game Bolt. He was playing Bolt. It's a game with a white little dog. And I guess he was playing like some single player mission or some shit. I don't know. But I remember that, and it was it was crazy. Going from Game Boy, not even having one, into fascinating about like some game. I had to have this to like Xbox, and this was the old Xbox, not the white one. I'm talking about the wired one. And this is when he also had like the Nintendo, the fucking claw looking thing, the one that comes in the middle, and like I forgot the name, but that's when he also had that. And I was like, yo, this is insane. And we played for a little bit, and then we started playing Call of Duty. And I remember here where my Tibetan was perfect. My Hindu was perfect. Spoke it fluently. And I remember my aunt and my dad or my mom, they were discussing about how I would forget when my parents were saying, oh, it's going to be very hard for them to learn English. It's going to be very hard for them this and this. And I remember them saying, they're going to forget it. They're going to pick up English like it's nothing. And I was 8 years old. And I'm thinking to myself, how lucky am I? Lucky in a sense that I didn't pick up an accent. And you can think that's good or bad, but to me that's good. It's good because it makes me realize that for me to communicate as I am doing now, to tell my story, if I had an accent, I just don't think it would have portrayed it well, especially in the business and the music that I'm trying to pursue. And again, you see how I said I'm trying? I need to rephrase it and say I'm going to do it. Sometimes I just don't want to specify my goals because I know I'm specifying my failures. That thought is always in my head. Anyways, so they argue a little bit because they're like, oh, it depends if it was so good. Hindu's amazing. And we had no place to say. And the way that my parents got to America was actually because of my aunt. She got a job there at a radio station for Tibetan people. It's called Radio Free Asia. She got a job there and eventually was able to bring my dad over. And then getting the right paperwork, we were able to come. So it's probably like a 2-year break without seeing my dad, I think. I don't remember the exact number, but I think that was it. So, after being there for months, we stayed in their basement. And I actually kind of missed that. We used to stay in their basement. I used to play this little Game Boy for once, man. I had the Game Boy. But this wasn't the one that lit up, man. I'm an ungrateful little bitch. Because I didn't realize. Nah, I'm just joking. But in that moment, I was so happy. I was playing Mario. And I'm competitive. I'm playing with my dad. I'm like speeding up, not even slowing down, holding down on B, just sprinting through. And I have a lot of memories of playing games, and I have a lot of memories of being in the basement. And I also have a memory down there where my dad got pissed at this one point. My mom and dad were arguing, and he threw down a plate of food and just fucking broke that shit. He went, and I look at him, I'm like, yo, I'm scared as fuck. And after, I think, 8 months, we finally got an apartment of our own. So almost a year we stayed there. And going there, I used to go to Sergeant Shriver. Sergeant Shriver was an elementary school. It's near, it's near, I think, Loiterman, I'm not sure. But that's where my cousins used to live. So when I went there, seeing other kids who were like sort of mixed like me made me feel good. But I remember being terrified of this one teacher. She was like, I think she was Hispanic, but she looked white, and she was tall. She scared the fuck out of me. And at this one point, I was just so intimidated, and I stepped outside like I was like scared. I was like crying because I was so overwhelmed, and I was kind of homesick at this point, and I'm missing my friends. I'm like so much emotions. I ran outside the class, and I just look up, and I see glass ceilings, not ceiling, but glass walls, and like big doors. Like imagine seeing like cross-gridded wall where there's a big door, and I'm looking at it. I'm like, yo, I feel like an animal being trapped. And I look at it and I think, Jesus, where the fuck am I? And I just want to run back home because like it's in walking distance. So I wanted to leave, and I couldn't get out. Eventually this lady calmed me down, and then, embarrassingly, I walked back home. And I think my cousin, she had to pick me up. I have 4 cousins. One who's older, girl. Middle, girl. One that's a boy. They're all above 20. And then there's one that's younger, around, I think 8 or 9. And it's crazy to me now because I think about that moment, and I can step into that moment like it was yesterday. Because I didn't understand why I was crying. Sometimes you just don't know. But now I think about it, I think it was just overwhelmed. A feeling of being overwhelmed, of everything just happening so quick. And finally grasping the idea and accepting the moment of what it is to like, shit, I'm in this world now. I'm in this place, in this point. Like, I didn't get to choose this. So, a lot of days go by. And eventually, after we find the apartment, gotta switch to it too. And I remember, this is another moment. Getting the apartment is the best feeling ever. We lived in Village Square Terra Apartments. And we lived all the way in the back because my parents couldn't afford having each rooms for ourselves. So we had to sleep right next to the kitchen, where our beds, at nights we would have to share it, and then all the stuff we found was basically like one man's trash is another man's treasure. Thrift shop, that's our go-to. And one of the beds, I think we found next to the dumpster at some place, and it looked pretty new. So my dad, I think he got and picked it up. So now we have beds outside the kitchen, and we're sleeping on it, and that's our bedroom. And we stayed there. That was like the best feeling, to know that we're not in a basement, we're in our own place. It's not the best, but the feeling of gratitude, man, that gets you through any fucking thing. Because the only time you feel upset, sad, angry, depressed, or any negative feeling, it's usually because you want to be somewhere in the future moment, thinking that is the source of your true happiness, and not realizing that you can be happy. Carl Jung, psychologist, has a quote. It says something about those who look outside dreams, and those who look inside awakens. Beautiful quote. So, humble beginnings. We had a big box of TV. Big box, like it was like a pretty box TV. I remember that it was in the corner, and being there, that's where when my dad first got an Xbox 360 Slim, son. We got that, and we were playing Modern Warfare 2. Oh my god, yo. When I first started Xbox Live party chat, I had the mic on, and I was talking to my friend Nader, who I met at school at Lux Manor. And I'm like, hello? Hello? And then like he was like talking back to me. He was like, yo, Tenzin, hello. And I could hear him, and I was just nervous. I was scared. I was like, yo, I can actually hear his fucking voice. What? I can hear his voice through this damn microphone. And it was just crazy to me. And then that's when I was just obsessed. Trick shotting, best at it. Quick scoping, best at it. Marathon, because, having sleight of hand pro is too damn cool. You can't have that. You got to be hipster and have marathon pro. Ninja pro on. Those are the perks. Basically, I did think I was a pro. I did think I was the best trick shotter. I did think I was the best. No, but it was the best of experience. That's how I played with friends. One of my favorite games is Modern Warfare 2, Red Dead Redemption. Red Dead Redemption, because that's where my friends and I played. And I guess for now, a lot of people are playing Fortnite. I guess, memories get built up on there. Memories get built up on these games, I'm telling you. These games are not just games, and I know that. So, we get the apartment, and I remember going to elementary school for the first day. As I stood at the bus stop, I didn't know where to go. There were buses coming in, and if you know anything about being in a bus stop, especially where there's a lot of different schools coming in and out, which was one of my places, where there's I think 3 different buses that came. I didn't know where the fuck to get on. I didn't know if it was the first one, the second one, or the third. My dad didn't know. So, we asked around, and eventually I got on the right one. And it took me to Lux Manor. And this is the crazy part, because when I got there, man, I was nervous. I looked in there, I was like, yo, is this where I'm going? And compared to Lux Manor, comparing Sergeant Shriver to Lux Manor, where there's diverse mixed kids, and a lot of them, mostly Hispanics and stuff, to more white kids, and it was just weird. It was just almost like a culture shock. I'm looking around, I'm like, oh, wow. Okay, this is different. And I slowly but quickly learned that these kids were rich. These kids were fucking rich. And slowly I realized why I constantly seem to relate to people who've gone through some struggle. And that can be very relative, but take it how you want. And as a kid, being in elementary school, man, I don't know if he's still the principal. His name was Mr. Forker. Fuck that guy. Got me in trouble one time. I built this paper gun, yo. I'm a creative kid. I built this paper gun, and I got in trouble for it. They called my parents for being creative, son. Anyways, being in that school taught me a lot. And then you go through the early growing stages of a kid, making friends. And then I had this one friend named Wolfgang Kochpaz, and we used to think we were the Wright brothers. We would make shit out of mechanical pencils, try to make things shoot. He would catch frogs, and dude, this guy was Crocodile Dundee to the max. He was his son. Everything. He had the blue shirt, the camo shorts, and the boots, and everything. This dude, he was all about it. And he was a very good friend to me. And then slowly growing up, eventually we faded, but friends come and go. And I realized that as I'm growing up, I always seem to get bad grades. Always. And maybe that's the story I'm telling myself, and maybe that's a self-image thing, I read Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz, and it covers that a lot. But what I realized over time is that I just wanted to be creative. I just wanted to have an outlet of some sort. So, fast forwarding, elementary school life, going through the blah, 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 and then middle school. Because elementary was fun, but I came in 4th grade, so I didn't get to experience it as much. Even though I did get to experience it a lot, 4th and 5th grade. Elementary school, amazing. Miss Battle, you're hot as shit. And truth. Probably shouldn't have said that, but I'm gonna keep it in. So, fast forwarding, I say about 7th and 8th grade. Between that time, man, I was looking up all these videos. This was when trick shotting was at its height. Modern Warfare 2, everything. I'm all about it. Like I would watch FaZe Clan. I would watch all these YouTubers. Soar and like anybody who made trick shot montages. This was way before Logic popped. This was when Logic was dropping this mixtape. This is when the first trick shotting things came out, and when like Logic was finally like blooming, starting to bloom. And now he's like, he's amazing. And to know that he was born in Gaithersburg, so close to me, it's like, man, amazing. But that's when Logic dropped, and that's when a lot of the trick shotters were using his songs. Funny enough, I just thought I'd throw that in there. But watching a lot of YouTube videos inspired me and made me realize that this is something that I'm fascinated by. So I started making YouTube channels, and I made so many YouTube channels. Acoustic, made one channel where I was like doing guitar shit. But even before the guitar shit, let me get on to the channel that I first started. And I remember clearly actually being a good one. Because before I would start, and I would start with the name, the branding of like, what the banner is going to be. And I figured out ways to make it. And I was always creative, like a problem solver. Because I never had much. Especially coming to America. I never had much in a sense of equipment. And it's relative, because to me, I always thought I had a lot. But then later on, growing up, seeing other kids in elementary school and like middle school, seeing kids who had so much, man, made me realize, I'm a minority. I'm an immigrant. I don't have that. So I was, always carried that chip on my shoulder. And I still do in a sense. So I started making a channel. And I remember this specifically. Keep in mind, I've made over like 30 channels by this point. All completely failing. And I made this, before I even go on, there's a funny channel, I forgot, I think it's called Tenzin something. But if you find it, and if you see a video of a little kid playing with his bionicles, that's my little brother, in our old apartment. And you can see the same little bed. And you can see, I think you can see my mom in the back. And that's gold right there. Maybe one day we'll look back at it. So, as I'm making this channel, I remember being with my friends, Christopher Fikes, Patrick Gossage, Devin Mullen. And I think I was only with Chris at this point. And we made a little video on my phone, because this is when I first got an iPhone 5. I started with a little flip phone that, I thought I had the computer in my hand. And sidetracking a little bit, I texted somebody, one of my friend, Danilo. And he I guess he had like some thing that let him text or something, but we didn't have that plan. And it cost us over like $200 something. Just to send like few text messages. And now look, it's free. Yeah. So I started that YouTube channel, and I started making like little parkour videos. And the app I used, I still remember now, it's called Splice. And I made little videos and the little intros in it. And it made me feel good to realize, oh shit, I can be creative and I can put it out there in this place called YouTube. So eventually, as I'm growing up, I realized I have this potential. this thing called internet, this thing called YouTube, where I can post. Before, uploading a video was like a challenge. Now it's crazy, because now you have control. Now I realized, and it's probably like a domino effect of one by one realizing, oh shit, I can do it. A great analogy that I heard was like a little baby at a party clinging onto his mother's leg, and then eventually, through time of the party, the duration, the kid will just take a few steps, maybe play with the toys, and then come back quickly running and just hugging his mother's legs. And then go out again, take few more steps, and then eventually playing with the toys and saying hi to some of the kids, and then coming back, eventually making friends, eventually doing his own thing. And that was my experience. Over time of uploading these little parkour videos made me realize, oh, maybe if I wanted to, I can. And this was the time when I realized I can. For a while, not thinking even if I could even start, or even just having the thought was weird. Now I thought, I can. And I remember specifically, this was during the summertime. I told my friend, Patrick, and I sat him down at the pool table, and I looked at him dead in the eyes. It was a sunny day. Our pool was like a tiny, small little apartment pool in the shape of an L. And we're sitting on the corner and the edge of the bottom of the L, if you can imagine, where we can see the whole pool. And I remember seeing his little curly black hair, and I'm like sitting at the table, and I'm looking at him, and it's a sunny day. And I think we were joking, laughing about something. And I told him, I'm like, yo, so I got this plan, right? So, you know how I'm making YouTube videos, and I figured that out, and I think I really want to be a musician and upload music shit. And he was like, really? Wow. And he understood for the first time. Because this is my friend. In fact, I would call him my true best friend that I've had. And having that connection where he was like, wow, that's cool. And he got his little grin. He was like, oh, this motherfucker thinks he can do it. Yeah, okay. That kind of thing, But it wasn't in a way to knock it off, So we did that. And then we just swam the rest of the day. Because during that time, the schedule was swim every fucking hour of the day. When it got around to 5 and 6, go back home, eat a lot of shit, play Xbox until 5 in the morning. That was the life, man. Summers, man, I miss that. And if I think about that too much, man, I'd get emotional and start crying. And I'm 100% being serious. Because those are the moments when you're truly present. And those are the moments that you always seem to have nostalgic, sort of melancholy feeling towards. Some sort of sadness for no reason. Maybe it's just because I miss it, but who knows? So, time goes by. And this was the summer. If I can backtrack, before the summer even came, I had a friend named Andre Rosales. He's a tall guy now. But even before, when I first met him, when he first came to our school in middle school, he came from the Philippines. And I noticed him, I'm like, yo, this dude, he's new and I know him. He lives pretty close to me and stuff like that. And basically, him and I become really good friends. And I remember yo, I want to be friends with this guy. This guy just seems cool. Later on I realized he's fucking cool, man. And I think this was when I first had Instagram, and I saw him playing guitar, and I was sort of inspired by it. And I never told him this, but I think he was almost where a tipping point happened, because I always had a fascination with guitar, always. And being that person who's deeply inspired meaning breath was given to you. almost as if you feed like fire. That sort of feeling. Like I was just deeply curious about this thing. How you press the finger down on the strings of the fret, and then you just strum it, and some sort of note comes out based on where you hold it. That just fascinated me, and it still does. And he had 2 guitars. One cheap classical guitar that he brought from like Philippines, I think. Terrible condition. Terrible is like terrible, but it worked, and it was a perfect beginner's guitar for me. And I asked him if I could borrow it, and like the sad thing is I never got to return it, and I never returned it. And maybe, I think to myself, if he hadn't let me borrow that damn guitar, I would never be here. I would never have found my like true, honest passion. And passion is a very vague word. What does that mean to have passion? I think it's to mean, to be curious. I think having a passion towards something is to know that you're not being forced to do something, and that you're deeply driven, and it gives you life. It gives you, being inspired. It gives you breath. And that's what music does for me. To be truly honest, not filtered, to be able to express in a way where, to me, sometimes it's not beautiful. Sometimes the songs that I like, they're terrible, they're shit. Some of the words don't even rhyme, doesn't have to. The melody's a little off. Sometimes when I'm even recording it, I didn't even try to sing it that way, but at the end, it is in between perfect and imperfect. It is between trying to make it sound good and it being bad from not practicing. It's in between that, and it being in between that, it's relative. Because to me, some of them could be terrible, some of them could be good, some of them could be amazing. To somebody else, it could be completely different. And that aspect of art is what makes it beautiful, that it is relative. That my perception, the way I view it, is completely different from yours, because you have a completely different lens on you. And that's why every motherfucker here on this earth is unique. Unique in a way that they've experienced life in a way that hasn't been experienced. Or you can think life is very determined, or you can think, free will. There's a big debate on it, but let's not get into that. But I do think everybody has a unique experience. Everybody. And experiencing life, this is, every day when I wake up, I'm grateful for. Every day when I'm I have a routine now. I have a morning routine, a morning ritual, a morning tradition. A tradition that has started after I quit my YouTube channel with over 47K. All my videos combined together has over 2 million views. Something I never thought I could achieve. You don't understand. To make money off doing something that you wanted to be creative in, something that you wanted to put out into the world, and to gain a profit from it. The money doesn't matter, but to know that you can do that, that is powerful. So, to cover up the story, that's where I started with a guitar. And where I started with singing was actually during an Xbox live chat with my friend Alvaro Rios. I would always sing the song If I Die Young by the band Perry. It goes like this. If I die young, bury me inside and lay me down on a bed of in the river at dawn. Send me away with the words of a love song. The sharp knife of a shot. I see, I remember it. That's amazingly written song. And how I stumbled upon that song was actually because I used to listen to a lot of like lyric videos. And I think that's where I lost my accent, or I never gained one in the first place, because music. I was constantly singing, constantly like reading it off my little boxed computer that my dad found like near garbage. And that's where I learned. That's where I learned that, oh shit, I can actually read and I can actually sing it like them and sound like them, meaning I had never picked up an accent. So I was singing fucking Never Back Down. Never say never, no, no, no. You know, what else? I had a lot of Dynamite. One that I remember was I'm glad you came. The stuff dun, dun, I'm glad you came. And regardless, I would sing that, and I would do it with passion, because I'm like, this point, I'm like, I think probably 14. I didn't really give a shit about 14, 15, maybe. I didn't really care about, what people thought. I was just, man, I'm just singing. And I knew that I had some sort of control in my voice. That I could actually make sounds that weren't terrible. So, I want to thank Albro Rios for being a support that I needed, that I didn't even know I needed, that I didn't even know I had. But just through him asking me to sing it again and again, I knew that, and I took it as a compliment, that my voice was good and that I could sing. And that it made me realize this music direction that I wanted to take. It just gave it a little focus. It gave it a little light. It just made me focus onto it. Where I was blindly going through life, just eating, being fat, not going outside when my friends would ask me to. They would literally come to my apartment building and like press the numbers and say, "Yo, Tenzin, can you come? Can you come?" And then I would just look out the window. I'm like, "Yo, I'm sorry, I don't want to come." And I would just spend most of my time playing games. And during that time when he told me that, I'm like, "Yo, I can actually sing." And then I went back, started singing a little more. And then that thought lingered in my head for a while. And then when I picked up the guitar from Andre, that's when I made the connection. That's when I first started singing, Ed Sheeran, Thinking Out Loud. It was on a Facebook video. That's when I started singing songs with guitars, and I started playing it, and I started practicing from YouTube. I had no teacher, nobody to teach me about vocal shit, nobody teach me guitar, nothing. And I started playing. I started playing the guitar. And then I started singing along with it. And I eventually got the tempo down. Eventually started realizing that I can play guitar and sing at the same fucking time. Powerful. Powerful to me. Though that I might not have realized it, a slow domino effect was happening. Slow domino. And I started playing guitar, and I started getting good. I started singing, my vocal gets better. And eventually, I started making like little cover channels, and I made over 20 more. So now you can say I made over like 50 YouTube channels. And then the one that I started posting a lot on was that parkour video one. And then after that, I made a little more channels. Made countless of YouTube channels, man. I'm telling you. One, I think I'm the natural perfectionist, and I want shit to be perfect. So if I didn't like a name, or if I didn't think it would sound right, or I just couldn't I would have to change it. So I made a lot of YouTube channels, and I made a lot of content, and I made a lot of mistakes, and I learned a lot. And eventually, through uploading a lot, I went through like mics, because I obviously had no equipment, and I didn't want to blame the equipment for not being the source. Like, I didn't want to blame the equipment like as if it's a barrier, something that's like stopping me from getting somewhere else. I always thought that if you were going to be creative, if you're going to be somebody who's wants to share something, that you don't blame it on the equipment. If you want to do something, and this was, I think, implemented in my head from my parents since very young, seeing them work very hard and diligently. And I still see that shit every single day. It's motivating as fuck. Made me realize you want something, you get it through hard work and dedication. And those are just words that you can say, hustle, grind, all that stuff. But at the end of it, it is the truth that you want something. You stop at nothing. Even if it means chasing it for your whole life. Because maybe it gives your life meaning. Maybe it gives it a sense of purpose. And isn't that what life is? To find the meaning of life? So, I go through these equipments. First, when I got the iPhone 5, I started making little videos. I started recording audio on it. It's crazy because I was watching Vine videos yesterday, and my friend Eve, who's my internet friend, never seen her, but always talk to her. She and I were talking about Vine yesterday and today. And yesterday, when I thought about it, I was looking up at Vine people that I know. There's this guy named Krish. He's funny as shit. This guy, English guy named Ollie MN, and he would make amazing musical genius. The kind of stuff he was making. Sorry. And it's crazy to me because I remember Shiloh. I remember him, yo. I remember him being reposted on Vine. I remember that shit. And it's crazy, it's just crazy to me now that X used his voice and sampled it in his songs, and I remember the beginning of that. And I'm sure a lot of people do. And that was a crazy experience. Because after I saw the videos on Instagram, I thought to myself, yo, I think this guy was on Vine. He was. So that's where I started posting little Vine videos, and that's where I met my friend Eve, and that's where I started making a lot of these videos. And I remember this one particular day, I think my Vine got over 10,000 loops, and it was growing very fast because I realized the algorithm, and the algorithm I realized was like a lot of people's stuff and then comment on them, especially on the newest ones that's being posted out, and they will most likely return the thing. Well, not really an algorithm, but I figured out a way to grow. And putting out these YouTube videos, not at this point. I started doing Vine because I took time off YouTube videos. After making all those channels, all those content, not going anywhere, I started doing Vine. And I started putting these little loop videos, Eventually, I gained some traction. And eventually, one success was I actually got reposted by this guy who had a million followers, and I don't remember his name, so I won't even try. And then at this other point, I remember being reposted by other people. But the thing is, at the end of it, it didn't really matter because it didn't matter in a sense because those entities or those sources of where I was getting this good feeling from, the physicality of it did not matter, but the emotion, the energy, the feeling that I was getting from it, that's what mattered. Because it made me realize progressing, succeeding at something, you feel good when you grow. Oh, maybe I want to do it again. And that's a good cycle to have geared in your head. Because, you get that same dopamine release from your brain that feels good, as explained by Simon Sinek, through alcohol, drugs, and all these other bad things that you don't want to get these feelings from. So I was getting it in a good place. And, again, sidetracking. You get the same dopamine feeling from your damn phones. And I know it. And I'm a slave to it, man. I am conscious and aware that I use my phone too much sometimes. But hey, I gotta do what I gotta do. So, I make these YouTube. No, I make these Vine videos, and after gaining a little bit of success, I remember this one morning, man. I'm going to school, and I think I was going late because my mom was gonna drop me off. So as I'm walking out of the, imagine, serotonin in your body. You're feeling good, chest up, shoulder back, man. If I could make a Jordan Peterson joke about being a lobster, bucko, man, that was me. I stepped out of that door with my chest up. I'm like, yo, I'm a Vine star. I get these loops. Just very egotistical. And that made me realize this is what I want to do. And then after Vine goes away, I started packing and making YouTube channels. And I started making these YouTube videos that were doing well. Exceptionally well, that when one of my songs, I'm sure some of you remember, it's called, not my song particularly, I did start writing songs at this point, which was probably into 16, 15, maybe thought about it, 16, and then eventually I did a cover of Ophelia. And this made me feel so damn good, because when I put this cover of Ophelia by the Lumineers, I didn't realize where the views were coming in from. But the fucking band or whoever was running their page on Facebook, they saw it and they reposted me. It blew my mind. The fucking band. The page themselves, they reposted me, and then that's where I gained a little bit of success from, a little traction. In other words, over 10,000 views, probably 11,000 views. Made me feel so damn good. Truly. And then I started posting a lot of these videos, and then, as you will realize, it's been a lot of trial and error. And throughout this time, I first started with my phone, and then I started going into this little mic that I had that if you can think of a size of a quarter, right? If you can think maybe a little bit bigger than a quarter. That's how big the little mic was. You just connect it straight into your iPhone, little jack, and then that's how you recorded sounds. And honestly, it didn't sound better. I thought it did. It really didn't. But it turned out to be a really good investment, because there's a little stand for the phone that you got with it, and I still use to today. And that thing cost like $20, I think, or $30, and I ordered it. It's called iRig, little adapter. That shit didn't work. Don't buy it. Sorry, iRig. I'm sure your other products are amazing. But eventually, going from that, one day I found myself in the bedroom of my friend Kevin Lee, and my other friend Bear Ullenbear. And eventually we started talking about this microphone that he had, because he had, I think, the Blue Yeti. No, he didn't have a Blue Yeti. I think he had some sort of Samsung mic that was I think close to $50. I'm not sure. I think he had some sort of professional mic. I remember that. And as I'm in his room and I look around, he has piano, he has a camera and tripods, and he had a tiny little Samsung Go mic. And I wanted it badly, and I inspired him to get me one. And eventually, after getting it, I moved from the iRig to a little Samsung Go mic. And some of you might remember when I first started making videos from that. I started making old, I guess it would be old now, but Hosier songs, cherry wine. Started making a lot of songs, actually. Let It Go, James Bay, when it first came out. All these songs I was recording USB mic from this little Samsung Go mic, and eventually moved on to a Snowball microphone. And then I sold that, and then eventually got enough money to buy the Blue Yeti, and that's what I used to record Ophelia, the Lumineers. And now the mic that I'm speaking into right now is called the Rode NT1 microphone. And it's not stopping here. Soon I'll be recording in a recording studio, hopefully. So that was the I guess you could say innovation. That was the evolution of the microphones that I started using, and eventually using the same Blue Yeti microphone, I started making Omegle videos. And then from there, talk about making over 50 YouTube channels, uploading constantly, trying like different like things to upload, like parkour, and eventually like recording random shit. Like all these different little things that I was doing eventually led me, because my goal was that I wanted to be a YouTuber. All right. That was my goal at the time. It's not now. It was then. And realizing the goal, you always seem to deter off course sometimes. But it's okay, because those little deviations get fixed up by your self-image of where you see yourself in the future. And that's why you might be upset sometimes, because your current state don't align with your future. And that's why you might be depressed, sad. So that channel, when I started up uploading Omegle videos, chat roulette, like experimental type videos, I quickly realized there was a little bit of like an entrepreneurial like spirit in me, because I realized I see people doing it, but I don't think they'll do it like me. I don't think they'll be able to mash up it like me. I don't think they'll be able to sing it like me. Like, I was a cocky little bastard. I was like, you know what, I can do it, and I can probably do it better than them. And I can almost create like a little niche, like little space, and chunk it out. I had that motivation, because at this point, when you get a little taste of success, you realize you can do great things. And then that little built up of motivation, I wanted greatness. So I start hustling, recording over like 5-6 hours sometimes, taking like 30-minute breaks sometimes, and my voice would stretch out, and sometimes it would be coarse by the end. And then I wouldn't sleep. I would stay up, edit my videos for 3-4 hours, and doing all that just to make a little 13-minute video. So if you watch my old videos on Lensic, you'll realize that editing is like crazy on it. The editing it's insane, because it starts out really shitty, and it gets to a point where I'm like doing too much with like too many little cuts, and then I realize, it doesn't like need that many, and then you can see the growth, is what I'm saying. And I guess this is why I'm doing this little storytelling, because I'm only 18, and going through this growth. Maybe in the future, I'll look back at this. Maybe I won't. But this is what I thought might be a way of having a diary. An open diary. So, after seeing the success of grinding and hustling and wanting greatness at this, being an immigrant, having a little chip on my shoulder, kind of like Gary V, having that, I was just like, yo, this is what I'm meant to do. So I started uploading, and I see my fucking subscribers go up from 0 to my 100 to 200, 300, 400, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. And some of you might even remember me recording it on Snapchat. I'm recording it on Snapchat. I'm recording it on like my phone. I'm like, yo, my subscribers numbers are going up, and the views are climbing, and all this, like, oh my God, it's not even good. It's an amazing feeling. It's ecstasy. This is what I'm meant to do, I thought. And I started uploading these videos, and it's doing great. And eventually, I realized that my goals have changed. That I don't want to be a YouTuber, because that was my goal when I started getting a little success. But my main goal from the start was to be a musician, to be a singer-songwriter who can perform, who can sing, who can also write his own shit, and to tell a story. That's what I wanted to do. From the get-go, that didn't go across my mind. It always stayed there. And realizing that and reading The Alchemist, because this is when I started reading. Reading The Alchemist made me realize, oh, what is my personal legend? Oh, what is something that I want to do? This is not it. So, eventually, having a goal and deterring off and having a little deviation, eventually my self-image of who I thought I was like supposed to be, who I wanted to be, made me realize that this is not what I want to do. So I stopped the YouTube channel. And I stopped making those videos completely. And I remember specifically after making that last video and uploading it, I just felt so damn good. Because I realized that now I can start. That now I can finally, it was almost like as if a weight was taken off my shoulder and a mask has been peeled off my face. Because I got I got lost in the sauce. And I look at myself now, if that's even possible. I think about who I am now. I would not be who I am having a morning routine, having a habit of reading, habit of eating well, habit of always developing, habit of growth, mindset in a way. Having this growth that I don't think would have been possible if I had kept going down that route. Because honestly speaking to you, whoever is listening at this moment, I'm telling you right now, with my mindset, without a doubt, 1 million subscribers would have been nothing. I'm so serious when I say it. I can achieve what I set my mind to. And if I continued, persisted, and kept going, even though I would have been burnt out, and I would have kept pushing myself, it would have been self-destructive. It would have been bad for me because it was not what I wanted for my future. And then realizing that made me feel free, as if shackles were being broken. And I realized that this YouTube thing, it was amazing because it made me realize that it is possible that I can be creative, get paid, and I can be successful at it. After realizing that, my future didn't align with it. So, I corrected myself. And I think to myself, was that self-sabotage? Why did I do that? But even though I forced myself to think these thoughts, I realized that I made the right decision. That my goal is to be a singer-songwriter, a performer, an inspiration. I want to inspire people. I want to make shit ton of money, and I want to give away. I want to give to people like me. But that's way too in the future. I want to make music that speaks. I want to write. I want to write whatever is on my mind, and I want to share my experience and my story. Because life is there's so much suffering in life. And I forced myself to read and study about all the genocide, all the horrific things that have happened, and I can still find a space in my heart to realize that life is beautiful. And I mean that. And I think that's why I want to pursue music. And I'm going to pursue music. And I'm scared. I'm scared not because of the unknown. I guess I'm scared of that, but I'm scared mostly, even if as I'm talking about this topic, I can't get the words to come out. I did this fear setting thing by Tim Ferriss, and he as I watched that video, I wrote down my fears. And I realized that what I'm fearful of, and I can say it with full confidence, is that I'm scared of people and what they think. And as much as I like to say, oh, I don't care about what people think, I think I'm not just scared, but I just care too much about what other people think, because I'm very insecure. Insecure about my height, insecure about my nails, insecure about my eyebrows, my eyes and how they're not symmetrical. List could go on. And being that in the music industry, I think to myself, if I'm going to continue with this, is it possible for me to succeed? Is it possible? And I'm trying to think logically, and I'm trying to make sense out of experiences that I've not even fully experienced, and I doing it with like barely any knowledge. So it doesn't even make sense. That's why I'm bold in a sense, because not just in a way that I think I can succeed and make it big, but I want to try it. Because you have one life. I'm 18 years old. I don't want to go the college route. And after realizing that, taking the step back from that little YouTube channel, little in everybody's eyes, but to me it's fucking huge. It's a huge compliment, because it's taught me so much. It made me realize that music is what I want to do, and that everything is uncertain now. I'm in senior year. I'm graduating soon. And afterwards, who knows? Will I be successful? It's relative. Successful meaning, will people want to listen to my music? Will people, care? Will this and that? What does my cousin's family think? What does my parents think? What do I think? What will people think of me? Blah, 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 blah. All these thoughts, just constantly thoughts and thoughts and thoughts and thoughts and thoughts. And I don't know. But guess fucking what? That's why I'm gonna fucking do it. Because I don't know. Because I do not want to have the regret in fucking 40 years later. Let's say I have a family, some kids, some money, comfortable. And I think, what if when I was 18, what if I just done that? What if I this and this? That would fucking kill me. The feeling of regret would kill me. So, that's why I'm a confident little bastard. 5'4". Look like a lesbian chick, because I'm trying to grow my hair. But that's why. Because I don't want to feel the feeling of regret. And if I'm speaking in retrospect, life. Because of life. Because I've been given this experience, this instrument, this heart that beats over 100,000 times a day, this mind, this I guess, generally speaking, I could say this experience that I'm given, I want to make the best of it. I want to make the best of it, and I want to help others. And maybe my story somehow helps. I don't know. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. And after taking a step back, I just felt so relieved. Next day when I woke up, I thought to myself, oh, what am I going to do? Because usually when I woke up, I had an idea. I was like, oh, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to make this video. And I would sit in the computer and I would record for over 5 hours, sometimes 7. Sometimes start recording at 11 and not even get until close to 8 or 9. And that was it. That's all I thought about. But now, it's different. And then soon, I started dwelling into, morning routines. I started dwelling into books. I started dwelling into knowledge. I started realizing this investment. If you want to think very logically, this is an investment for a better future. And I want to enjoy the moment of this process as the future comes. Because like Eckhart Tolle says, it only comes through the now. And that's what it's been so far. It's been a personal development journey. It's been a journey where it hasn't even started. I'm only 18. Who knows what else could happen? And so far, funny thing is, after the YouTube channel, I start putting original songs out. And I eventually saw this van go by. And then on it said some record, whatever, said, please call here. And I called them. And eventually started talking with him. And it's kind of shady. It wasn't really a record label. As I end up at this place, because he told me to bring my guitar out. This was around 3 or 4, as soon as I got out from school. And as I'm walking down through the sidewalk and I see the same car, and I talk to him, he tells me to bring the guitar out. And I bring my blue guitar out, the one that I made a video on, the one that you'll still see me with, the blue guitar. I took it out and I started playing with it, and I showed it to him. I played the song. He was like, yo, this is amazing. This is blah, blah, blah. And then he started telling me he knows people like J. Cole. He knows Ed Sheeran, Eckhart Tolle. He has a contact full of these names. It could have been fake, which definitely probably was fake. And he was telling me he knows all these people. And I'm like, yo, wow, this is amazing. And then I go to his place later on. He comes pick me up. And I realized, this guy seems pretty fucking shady. He's got a little strip club, and then he's got a little all these side ventures that he's doing. And then there's this one experience with me and him. He was just being very, just a bad person. And then him telling me that he wanted to sign me, he wanted to get me up right away. And talking a lot about business and a lot of money. And eventually I just realized this dude had no idea what the fuck he's talking about. Not really into music. Just probably thinking about a quick buck, how to make money. And then from that experience, I realized to be, just careful. Because this isn't the one only shark. There's going to be many. And being 18, that's a very good knowledge to have. And then I met, I used to date this girl at this one time. And I met up, we came, and then as she came over, as she was leaving actually, she was leaving at this point, I think I ordered a Lyft. And then the Lyft driver, his name was Quan. And funny enough, he's 40 something years old. He has a whole group of friends that he's cool with. And they're all musicians. One has a recording studio in his basement. Another one knows how to write. He doesn't, I wouldn't necessarily call him a producer, but he makes beats. And to be around the people like that, it made me realize rap, hip hop. It made me realize what kind of effect that has on people. Because before, I didn't really care about rap. I was just no skill. Okay, it sounds kind of cool. This is cool. And of course, I enjoyed it. I loved it. But it's just had no effect on me as if singing. And now my perspective's completely changed. And probably because of them. And they're the people that you meet along the way, along the journey. And it's funny enough, because I'm going to sidetrack once again. Because as I'm talking about rap, I think about the schools that I changed from. So, Sergeant Shriver, Lux Manor, Tilden, and John F. Kennedy. Started at Sergeant Shriver, where I cried. Eventually moving to an apartment, getting into a place and then started going to Lux Manor, Tilden, which is another school where I didn't feel like I really fit in, but then I was just there. And then eventually I went to John F. Kennedy, where I am right now. And the transition from Tilden to Lux Manor, I can't explain. From a school where there's white kids, and a lot of them, to a place where it's mostly black and Hispanic, it's a culture shock. Complete. And it made me realize that I have to get out into the world and experience. So, from there, I dwelled in a lot of experiences. Some good, some bad. And eventually made me realize that I feel more at home here at this school. Because realizing their struggles through the stories they would tell me, it made me realize that, shit, I can relate to you. And I can actually finally feel as if we're communicating. As if you're listening to me, I'm listening to you, and we can relate and we can bounce off each other. And those kind of communications, those kind of friendships, those kind of people that I gotten to know so far. Amazing. Amazing people. And that's where I realized that these people that I'm meeting along the way, some are good, some are bad, but overall, this is just the part of life. Experience. So, going back to Quan, I met these people, and then I started dwelling into music even more. And now, with this channel, Gyal, that's the name I want to go by, because I always want to be remembered. And I always want to be reminded of why I'm doing this. Not just for me, but also my parents, my little brother, and my family. And it made me realize at that point that this music shit, like, this is bigger than me. But the selfish thing is that I'm doing this for me. That if I had to listen to my parents in the future, I probably would have blamed them. I would have blamed it on somebody else for listening to them. So this is the best decision to make. To go forth with this. The trail where not many will go by. Everybody wants to go to the path of least resistance. And this is the path where you have to make your own path. Essentially. And realizing this makes me scared. Makes me fearful of the unknown, of what could happen. I could be broke. I could this and that. Generally, being scared and being fearful. That's the two things I could think about. But having within myself the courage to know that and still want to do it. And that's where I'll leave it off. I'm 18 years old. It is 5:54, Monday, March 12th. And that's it, diary. That is it for you. I got nothing else left.